welcome to the very first episode of Bugs, Drugs, and Genomes, a new podcast coming out of DTU Food. This is
Zefi,
Ella,
and Christa. We're three members of the DTU Food Research Group for Global Capacity Building, or GloCaB, as we call ourselves. We'll be your guides throughout the rest of the podcast this season. Pretty exciting, right, ladies?
Yeah, can't wait.
Our team works to study bacterial genomes and antimicrobial resistance, trying to figure out how drug-resistant bacteria spreads around the world and, more optimistically, how we can combat them. Today, we'll quickly introduce our research group, our work, and what you can expect from this podcast.
Great. So, Christa, for some of our listeners who maybe aren't familiar with the GloCaB group and what we do, could you share a bit about who we are and what we focus on?
Of course, yeah. So our research group is all about strengthening global surveillance of infectious disease agents and antimicrobial resistance. And we, inside the team, we call that AMR, and you'll hear that acronym a lot on this show. Our mission is to help countries around the world build better laboratory systems, especially by using cutting-edge tools like whole genome sequencing.
And also to add, we work closely with major international organizations like the World Health Organization, the Food and Agriculture Organization, and also the European Union. And we provide scientific and technical support to these national reference labs across the globe. Actually, we have several designations from global organizations, one of which is, okay, this is a mouthful, but hear me out. We are the World Health Organization Reference Laboratory for Antimicrobial Resistance in Foodborne Pathogens and Genomics. That was long. The FAO Reference Center for AMR, and also the European Union Reference Laboratory for AMR in Feed, Food, and Animal Health, and also the European Union Reference Lab in Public Health.
Good job, Zefi.
Yeah, that's
Woo!
a lot. So besides all of those technical designations, what does the work of the GloCaB group look like in practice?
Okay, so this is a bit broad, but our team develops methods and guidelines to ensure high-quality AMR data, runs validation tests for both phenotypic and genotypic resistance, and also creates reference materials that labs across the globe can rely on. Whether it's training scientists, improving data quality, or supporting international surveillance networks, our team is helping shape a safer and healthier future.
Thanks, Zefi. Could you share a typical project or a recent finding that the team is working on?
Of course. Let me first introduce myself. I am Zefi, and I am a bioinformatician on the GloCaB group. My work revolves around managing and leading the Seek Asia project, which in short stands for Sequencing Asia. So in this project, we work closely with labs across South and Southeast Asia, and we provide virtual training webinars. And most of these are focused or centralized on bioinformatics trainings and also on quality control across the labs. So I'm actually preparing for my first on-site training to Bangkok. Yes, and it's very exciting.
Yay, that sounds awesome. So, Christa, could you tell me a bit why studying AMR and bacterial genomes is so important in the grand scheme of things?
Yeah, AMR is a very scary thing. It happens when bacteria evolve to resist the drugs like antibiotics that we use to treat infections. So that means that common illnesses can become harder or sometimes even impossible to treat. So by studying the bacterial genomes, scientists can track how resistance spreads. We can identify dangerous strains early on and try to prevent them from spreading, and we can develop better strategies to stop outbreaks. It's sort of like detective work at the molecular level, and it's really important for protecting public health worldwide.
That's great. Thank you so much for that overview. Now, Zefi, what is it like to work at GloCaB? Do you have any advice for students or early career researchers interested in working with a group like ours?
Of course. To be honest, I started quite recently. So I would say that our team is incredibly international, and we have people from all across the globe working in the GloCaB group. And not just that, but we also have people from that lead different projects and also that have different experiences. For example, we have postdocs, we have a PhD student, we have microbiologists, project managers, and epidemiologists. So it's a pretty diverse group in terms of what they bring or what each person's skill set is. And in terms of international collaboration, because of how big and broad all of our projects are, I would say that we get to work with people from Europe, Asia, Australia, and the US even. I think students who have a background in biology and also in engineering could definitely apply and be a part of the GloCaB group.
Yeah, sounds like a very collaborative, interdisciplinary environment. Thank you. All right, and before we wrap up, why don't we give our listeners a quick look at what you can expect from this podcast series?
Absolutely. So over the coming months, we'll be exploring the fascinating world of antimicrobial resistance and global health through the lens of the Global Capacity Building team at TTU Food. So each of these episodes will bring you stories from the lab, the field, and the front lines of science and policy.
Here's a sneak peek. What is AMR and whole genome sequencing? In that episode, we'll break down the acronyms and explain how genomic sequencing helps fight global health threats.
We'll have an episode focused on data for action, where we learn how AMR data informs public health decisions and international policy.
We'll have another episode on One Health, Many Questions, where we basically discover how human, animal, and environmental health are all interconnected.
We'll have a lot of episodes where we go behind the scenes, from packing boxes for international lab assessments to training scientists in conflict zones. We'll show you how global capacity building is done in the field.
Whether you're a student, a scientist, or just curious about how global health works, this podcast is your backstage pass to the science that keeps the world safe.
You can learn more about our work at food.ttu.tk. And stay tuned for our upcoming episodes of
Bugs, Drugs, and Genomes! That wraps up our introduction to the GloCaB group. But before we go, we have a quick quiz for our listeners.
All right, so our quiz question today is, which of the following is a major focus of the GloCaB group? Is it A, climate change research, B, antimicrobial resistance and bacterial genomes, or C, space microbiology? And the correct answer is B, antimicrobial resistance and bacterial genomes. Thank you so much for tuning in to our first episode of Bugs, Drugs, and Genomes.
Stay tuned for our next episode. See you!